Well, talk to me about the Human Project.
You mean my project?
Yeah.
Well, it's the House of Human Connection. So it's the company that I've opened here in Bahrain, and it started actually during pandemic, where I felt that the world became, even before pandemic, the world became so disconnected. Social disconnectedness just causing a lot of havoc in mental health and people's minds. So for me, it was something that I felt I needed to do in order to bring that connectedness back to the world. So it started as a love project. Somebody who wants to bring that human connection, the real human connection back into people's life.
Okay. We understand the when and we understand the why, but what is it?
It's the good question. So the House of Human Connection has the skill building or skill development arm.
Okay.
So it's something that helps people to learn how to have a better relationships, whether it's in the workplace or whether it's with personal relationships, how to have a better relationship with self to start with, how to have a better relationship with higher power or God or whatever people believe as their creator. And we help people to find that connection with themselves, which results in connecting better with others. And
so how does that process happen? So I come knocking on your front door and I'm like, yo, what's step one?
We have program, which we have 10 topics in the program. And it's run as a group retreat, so we have the first one coming up next year.
Okay.
So it's a group retreat where we take 10 to 12 people who want to really develop their skills in this area. And we have 10 topics that cover different areas. Like, for example, we have in our faculty somebody who help people to develop the intuition for decision-making process, because most CEOs or leaders these days use the quantitative method to make decisions, and they don't really tap to something which is so powerful like their intuition to make the decision in business or in life. We have somebody who helps people with presentation skills, and not just the presentation skills that you find in anywhere in the world, just learning the technical stuff, how to go on stage, how to present, and how to we have somebody in our faculty who teaches how to really connect with the audience, and he call it his name is Andrew Eggleton. He call it from age of information to the age of connection. So as a presenter, you no longer come and share your knowledge or expertise with people on stage. As a presenter, you really connect. And if you don't connect, you are just one of the people who are just on stage getting, in and out, and people will forget you tomorrow. But if you know how to connect with people from stage or from in a meeting or in at the event or the conference, you're not going to be forgotten, because you have that I would almost say like a spiritual experience on stage. So he does that. We have in our faculty somebody who teaches ethical leadership, for example. So how you as a leader lead an organization ethically, and that covers a lot of things like empathy, or how do you find the balance between the bottom line and compassion for clients, suppliers, employees, and so on, and many, many others. So it's like
Do you believe that has a place in business?
I believe that we can make it that way.
You don't believe in ABC?
I believe in ABC, but I believe we can find a balance between the two.
Because, always be closing. Businesses are what? A profit maximization. Well, you're talking about a very Machiavellian man, right?
Yes. It is a profit maximization, but we have arrived at the different world. It used to be like that, but now we actually in a completely different world that we were even before the pandemic. And I'm not saying that pandemic was a disruptor in many ways, but what it did to us as humans created a completely new paradigm. And I don't believe that businesses who just focus on the bottom line will survive post 2023, 24, 25. I think you either change and transform and bring the compassion and empathy into the way you do business, and that connectedness and social connectedness, or you fail.
Do you not feel like that was very true in the early 2010s, and now the pendulum is switching back again? Netflix just recently said to their employees, hey, you know what? If you don't agree with what the content that we're making, you're not happy with it, get out. You know, we're seeing like Microsoft now saying, hey, to their employees, we're going to cut back on having all these external facilities. Google very famously also said to their employees, we're not going to be as out there and as like wholesome as we were. So there is a return back. I feel like the pendulum is very quickly moving again. And I mean, these are very fancy concepts from a humanitarian perspective, but from a business perspective, you as an investor have X amount of capital, and you are looking for your ROI and dividends. Now your CEO can come to you and be like, hey, you know what? It's not called EBITDA. What's the new standard? It was environmental. Can you look it up? It's called environmental, social, and it's not EBITDA. It's a new term that the US has just recently put into place on the S&P 500, and it talks about how environmentally conscious the company is, how much of the percentage of their firm governance, environmental, social, governance issue, ESG data. So there is ESG data in the S&P. Can you check up just to make sure I'm not talking out of my ass that S&P 500 uses the SEG data? Yeah. S&P 500 ESG index. So it is being used with the S&P 500. But that means that Tesla, for example, is not included in the S&P 500, which it's crazy. It might not produce as much as Ford, but its valuation is way higher than Ford. Do you get what I'm trying to say?
Yes, but there are ethical investors who do look at the data and see which company they invest in, and there are people. I'm not saying all, but I think if we start the movement to spread and the awareness will spread, and there are people who also, and you mentioned that the companies, the pendulum is swinging. To an extent it does, but we also have, as on the other hand, a massive resignation that is happening all over the world as well. So
sure,
people are leaving because they no longer want to have the same conditions or the same 9-to-5 job, or something that is unfulfilling, doesn't have an impact. So that people don't leave an organization they feel connected to.
Yeah, you have a high turnover rate. It's
costly.
I agree with you on these markers, but if you're talking about the high leaving rate in the US, it's because people found better economic means to support themselves. And this is, they did get a lot of state injection capital into during COVID. I think what was the government paying out people in the US for unemployment? I want to say it was around like $5,000 or $2,000, something like that. So there was a lot of people who didn't return to the workforce after that effect.
Yep.
But I mean, if you're hungry, you're hungry.
And organizations are looking now to change the way their workplace is organized and the way people feel motivated, connected, and whether they make an impact or not. And relationship skills, the companies that do well, the people at the top still have good relationship skills, because you can't run a successful company and not being good at relationship building.
I don't know if I would 100% subscribe to that. It depends on which stage a company is at. The best companies, especially as from a growth perspective, as a very early stage, are companies that have a cult-like appeal, right? Famously, a former Facebook staff would always say,
Yep.
we bleed blue,
Yep.
right? We bleed Facebook colors. And if you're not there to make hours and to be there, then fuck off. I always tell Dan as well, you know, we bleed purple here. And if that's an issue, then that's an issue. Right, so there, so I get that kind of connotation, but I would never in a million years be like, oh, you know what, are the goods that we're sourcing ethical? You know, it's never been like.
It depends what you mean by ethical. To me, connectedness, you feel a sense of belonging to organization, whether they treat you well or don't treat you well. If you have that sense of you are
that's not what I'm saying.
You are part of the family, you're not gonna leave. So even if, you know, somebody say, well, take it or leave it, if you feel you belong, if you feel you're connected, if you feel this is the part of cult or family or something, you're not going to leave. And that's what we teach exactly, how to make your organization connected, how to make sure that your senior leadership team or client-facing team have a good relationship building skills, because you can't sell anything to anyone and people don't trust you, don't like you, and don't want to have any relationship with you. So this is the top skill that people need to succeed in life. You know, how do you communicate with others? How you connect? How you relate?
So give me a breakdown. So what kind of steps would be involved in this program? So I have a team, let's say, of sales agent or whatever.
Yeah.
And they're performing okay. I want to perform the next level up.
Yeah.
How long would the course take to do it?
Well, the retreat that I mentioned, it's taking place, you know, outside. You can send your top people for the retreat, but we also have workshops that we organize for organizations, for the corporates, and it could take, you know, 1-2 days depending on, you know, how big is the team, how many people you want to get involved. But the process is, it's not the training as traditional training, is the experiential skill building event where people would have about 70% of experience and, you know, 20% of exposure, and the 10% would be your traditional learning. And it's a multi-sensory event. So we engage all 5 senses for people to have a full immersion. That's how the learning takes place. And it's, as I said, it could be a 1-day workshop. If you want to, for people to learn how to really connect, if you have a salespeople and they have a traditional sales technique and sales tools which turn
CRMs,
most of the
sure.
people off. Yeah, I mean, yeah, it's good to have the obviously follow up and the pipelines and all of that. I'm not negating that, but I think if you want to take it to a completely different level, you do need to build the skills that connect the people, that builds the trust fast and build the sense of connection in somebody. Okay, I want to do business with this person, because people don't do business with organizations. People do business with people. And without that skills, you really, really can't be successful as a salesperson, as a senior leadership, somebody leading an organization, or even as any team player.
I agree with that, with an asterisk. You know, company's only as good as the people that's in it. There's no doubt about that. I'm with you. But from what I'm hearing here is your structure from the perspective of the sales seems to be something that's more engaged on one-on-one. Maybe like brokers from the banking industry who have like maybe managing 3-4 clients.
Yeah, you build relationships. Yeah.
Maybe watch dealers, art dealers who have a very small client base. This does not seem like a program that would be particularly useful for like I don't know, like a phone center, like a calling agency.
I disagree, because if your people learn how to open a conversation, because when you call, I actually had this week like 4 or 5 phone calls from a company that called themselves some digital marketing company. They were offering me investments and different assets.
They were offering you money, or they were offering to...
No, they were offering me products which they
okay.
wanted me to invest in, and they were hassling me for 4 or 5
I like
days.
that. I like that word, by the way. Invest, not buy. I like that very much. It's a very old sales technique. I like it.
Yes, and that was the most frustrating conversations. And I did engage in a few conversations just to see how bad things are, and they were bad, because you feel the phone sales team was trained to get the person on the phone, don't establish the rapport. You literally don't establish trust, report, ask like anything. You just go straight into your script. You read from the script. The other person feels that you've been read to. And basically they try and as fast as they possibly can, because they know they're not going to have me on the phone for too long, fast as they possibly can, to overload me with the information and expect me to say, oh my God, this is fantastic, I'm in.
Okay. So how
It's
would
not
you...
going to happen.
So
It's not going to happen. So you teach the phone, as counterintuitive as it sounds, you teach the people listening skills. You first of all, you establish if it's a good time to talk. I mean, at least the basic courtesy, politeness. Okay, so you call a busy person and you launch your sales.
That was
pitch.
exactly my next leading question into it.
So you teach the people how to polite courtesy, asking, find a good time. If it's not a good time, ask when is the best time to call. Then you have a conversation, you ask where the person is, how they are, without being, intrusive or something, but it has to be a two-way connection. You first find out what the person is looking for. Maybe I'm not looking for this, but you have another product that would be more suitable for me. There has to be a fit. And so it does need maybe a little bit longer investment in terms of time from the sales team, but the outcome would be much more.
So your prescription on this is to creating a rapport with the sales agent and the mark.
You must. Nobody's
rather than because my question would be in a larger sense, right? That from a sales perspective, you hit on as many doorknobs as possible, because it's a probability thing, right? Out of 100, 1 or 2 will say yes. That covers you for that month. You building that rapport takes time, takes energy. You go from 100 phone calls to maybe 50, maybe 25, depending on how invested you have to be in with this client. But that doesn't guarantee at the end of like
it
spending.
Does.
You really believe so?
No, I believe so, because if you use your old techniques by going the numbers as fast as you possibly can without building a rapport, and you get one sale, and then you maybe do less 70 calls instead of 100, and you build rapport, your probability increases because people trust you more. People felt understood, heard, listened to. They know that you are, somebody who means well, who not just want to sell, but actually want to solve your problem. The probability shoots up. So you make less calls, not 100, you make 70 or 50. And then you don't do one sale out of 100, you do 30 out of 50. And that is inevitable when you do build connection with someone, because, it's...
Interesting.
It's and it's not just for sales team, it's for anyone who is No,
I agree, because I'm like, in my head right now, I'm putting myself as either an investor or CEO hat I'm putting on, right? And I'm listening to this as I would listen to a sales pitch, right?
Yeah.
That's why I'm saying it's interesting, but I mean it's very hard to convince an existing modality, a methodology into transitioning into something else, right? There's a lot of
There isn't. So I have spent more than 5 years in the organization, which was bringing top CEOs together under one umbrella. So it's a membership organization. The CEOs would join, and they're not, there's a very high level criteria for joining. So it's not just the CEO, it has to be a certain very high turnover, very high, the size of the organization. So we're talking about the top leaders, world leaders. It's a global organization. And I have spent 5 years in the organization as a learning and insights director. And so I was dealing with a lot of top leaders on a regular basis, because we were involved in organizing the learning programs for them and upskilling.
Are you talking about, what is it called, mentalist or mind test or something like that?
No, it's called, it's called YPO.
Okay, is that there's one called Mentist or Mindest or something, and I think it's a buy-in that's like $100K.
No, it's called YPO. You can Google them. It's YPO.
I don't doubt you. So what is it, like invite from stature or invite as buy-in? I'm not familiar with it.
It's one of the largest global organization for the CEOs. They present in 130 something countries, and they have, I think, over 35,000 members. And yeah, it's very exclusive organization, so you need to be at a certain level to join. But the point I was making, I mean, I'm not
Selling it.
talking about the organization, no. The point I was making that after observing the CEOs and working really closely with them and seeing them at the general meetings and seeing them learning, seeing them making decisions and so on, I was trying to observe what is it that makes these people so successful. I mean, they are the top successful people worldwide. And the one thing, and obviously they have different skill level, different intellect level, and they're very, very different. But the one thing that I observed they have in common is how their ability to build relationships. And I'm not saying they're all very, charming and all of that. No, they could be
Assholes.
not. I'm not going to call them that. I have great respect for the people that I worked with. But they know when when they need to, they can. Their relationship skills, I mean, some of them are just born with it, and they just really born with this fantastic ability to make the person that they talk to like the only person in the world exist at that particular moment in time. But some of them can switch it on when they need to, when the time is right, or when a deal or something depends on it. So all of them have that extraordinary ability to build relationships with others. And obviously I don't have statistics I didn't do like a proper research, and it
wasn't going to ask.
It's not a scientifically based research that I would say that I'm not going to claim that I've interviewed 35,000 CEOs and that this is the finding. I mean, this was purely observational, but the more time I spent, and as I said, it was over the span of almost 5 years, the more time I spent with them, the more I've realized these people know how to build relationships. And that ability to build relationship is not at the normal level. It's just something, extraordinary skill that they have.
What exactly do you mean when you say they're building extraordinary relationships? You mean that their ability to get them to show up for a meeting? In what context?
It's in every single context, in the way they speak to others, in the way they communicate, so in their listening skills, in the way that they are able to read the person well, in the way that they are self-aware, in the way that they can make you feel like you are the most important person at that particular moment, to the way that they can build the connections, to the way they invest in the connections with others, to the way that they grow the network and they invest in the network and build that network genuinely without, I'm going to be your friend because we can do business together. But there's a genuine drive to build connections with like-minded people. And that was one of the drivers of that organization, of course. But I think in general, you can observe that these people know how to build connections which lead to growth and wealth and business.
Okay, I find that very fascinating because I still don't really. I'm thinking now from the perspective of the audience who just listened to this, right? From the perspective of the audience, this was a lot of conversation about the potentiality of their relationship building skills. I don't know exactly what you mean with like listening skills. You mean you feel like you're being heard, right? And do you then feel from a positive connotation that they're able to read you correctly and then
you feel understood? So when
okay, now I kind of get it. Okay,
so when a lot of people listen to respond. So you listen to a person. And you listen and you think, okay, what I'm going to say next, what I'm going to respond, what I'm going to... it's a skill to listen to the people, to hear them, to understand them, to get inside the mind or inside the soul or inside what drives them.
Interesting.
So it's something that some people are born with it, but it's something that could be also learned. And not could be, but it's definitely a teachable skill. That's something could be acquired in the programs that we created. And that creates that level of connection where you listen to another person to understand them. Everything else becomes easy, because then when you understand the person, you can sell to them in a different way. The trust that you created with the person is different. Let's say you have an issue that you want to be resolving, and that's another skill that you need to resolve conflict, let's say within the team or with a supplier or with whoever the client. Conflict resolution, sales, negotiations, all of this cannot be achieved without having a skill how to connect with people on much deeper level that we used to.
I can tell you how it is for me from a perspective of right now. For example, if you were psychic and you could read my mind, it's just blank, because all my energy is focused right now on what you're trying to say and what you're trying to formulate, and then trying to understand it, right? So maybe other people aren't like that, because I'm not another person, right? And like this is if we met like outside of the podcast, this is how I am both on and off. There's no like separation, right? At least not for me. There are other people who do a show who are X or who are in business X and then Y something else. The CEO of McDonald's once said, in business, it is business, family, and then religion. Outside of business, it's religion, family, and then business. So there are people who have the separation of this identity. For me, it's always been very clear cut. So when I talk to people and I try to understand them, be it from any position in life, I always try to understand them from as clearly as who they are and what do they want to say in a larger picture and format, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
I find it amazing that you had the ability and the chance to go and meet people who are very often very difficult to reach and to spend time with. And I find it amazing that you picked up exactly on the spots that they're very well listeners and relationship builders. Yeah. I don't know how that transitions into a mechanism of profit, because it's always from profit, it's always ROI. It doesn't matter how good my relationship is with John. If the numbers don't work, the numbers don't work. Yeah. You know what I mean? It does.
Yeah, but you separating them too, and they're connected. They're directly impacting. So if you sell to John, and your profit depends on whether John buys from you or not.
Sure.
And you have a good relationship from John. John is going to buy from you because he trusts you, not because maybe sometimes not even because your product is better.
Sure.
So
that depends on the industry, though, very specifically.
It depends on the industry. Obviously, it's different industry, but even with the different industries, when you do, mergers and acquisitions, when you do a lot of business deals, that's where the skills come in.
Because this is what I find interesting. I can tell you from perspective of aluminium. I forgot the name of the product. Not consumables. Commodity products. It's the identical product.
Yeah.
Right. Whether you buy it from factory X or Y, it is the same product.
Yeah.
So the way that deal happens in structures is that it's a bidding war. You either bid to sell and you're willing to sell it at the lowest rate, or you bid to buy, right? And you try to bid it at the lowest rate, but from the other side, right? Ideally, as from a company perspective, you always want to sell high, buy low, right? And so both those, it works. There is like zero relationship within that industry. Do you know what I mean?
Well, I'm not saying that the relationship is everything. I'm not negating the business side of it and profit and loss and all of this. I'm just saying that.
Do you get what I mean?
Even the commodity company would still have an element of relationship building. on some level somewhere. I'm not familiar with the necessarily the process of the aluminium
industry or glass or plastic.
So I'm
or
not gonna claim that I know every industry by heart, but I'm saying that in any industry, whether there is a point of sale or whether there is a point of interaction at the higher level with another company, whether there is the relationship comes in, unless the company is run by robots. Even robots need relationship skills. So
fascinating. Because I come from a background of business. I studied business. I had an MBA, and one of the professors in my cohort, he gave us two case studies, and he said there were two case studies. There were two private schools, and they have identical everything. So they have an identical size, identical markets, identical, where they attract people, everything, every other. Etal. Is it? Dan, can you look it up? Latin word for everything being equal?
Yeah, I think
that's not etal. It's we had this conversation a bunch of times with Latin word for everything being equal. Omnimus paribus. That's the one.
Yes. So with all other things being equal, one school was doing better than the others, and they couldn't find what was that, because they just looked at everything, like normally like business study, the case study, you look and you can't find it. Now what they found, there was a human factor. The principal of the school was loving what she was doing so much that he called this business case as bringing Bunny to life.
Okay.
She brought Bunny to life by how she was loving what she was doing. And when you love what you do, what it translates into, you have better relationship with parents, with people who brings kids to school and to school and everything. Kids were doing better, parents were happy, and so on. But if you look at the starting point they had, it was exactly identical. They had the same budgets and they had the same things, but one school was doing better in terms of performance, both financial and academically, and the other school was doing less. And so the point that this professor was making, the case was, bringing Bunny to life, the toy Bunny, that the human factor is huge in any business, huge. And it's not just loving what you do, but it's also how you relate to others. And that's also love.
It's fascinating to me, because again, I've never really seen it from that. It's like there's a river between the two of us. I find it fascinating because I've never thought about business in that venue ever. In my entire 31-something years, I've never come across even thinking about it. So I find it very fascinating, this aspect of building relationship in that sense. Sure, after the show, I have friends and we become friends and stuff like that. That's normal procedure, right? And some of my from consultancy days, you become friends with some of the clients.
Of course.
That's natural. But I've never looked at it from a perspective of hey, you know what? I'm going to try to understand the other party the best possible way. Because from my perspective, it's always been, is this the best deal on the market? And if we do the best product and we do the best deal, then that's good enough.
How do you make it the best deal?
By being the best product at the best price.
What else?
That's for me, yeah.
But okay, think of a scenario where you have somebody who makes it a best deal for you because of relationship you have with them.
I can't even imagine that.
It happens all the time.
That's
how you get advantage.
I can't imagine that.
I'm not saying that happens all the time.
It boggles my mind. From a customer experience. I guess because I'm different than you and a lot of people in that I want to have the least amount of possible interaction. not the most amount of interaction. Like if I'm going to buy a piece of art, I just want to buy it. I don't want to have coffee. I don't want to have tea. I don't want to. You know what I mean?
As a consumer, we're talking about the consumer because that's a completely different perspective. We're not talking about the consumer experience or customer experience right now. We're talking about the people who lead the companies or who face clients. So we're talking about the part which sells, not the parts where you go and buy.
Interesting. But do you like if the sell guy would come up to me and let's say he's like asking me about my day and stuff like that, and like, hey, what's going on? I would be furious.
You would be, yeah. But
again, I'm looking at it from a customer perspective.
Yeah, but imagine you meet someone, and the person is not really coming with a sales agenda, and just builds rapport, and maybe he just built rapport and went away. Maybe he asked you a couple of questions. So what kind of thing you're looking at right now, where you are in life in terms of whatever product they sell. And then they come back and then they say, well, remember, Hamad, remember we spoke about this and you mentioned that this is what you're looking for. We just had something that might suit your requirements or might fit. There will be a completely different experience. And highly likely that you're going to be impressed that this guy is really having my back. He thinks about my needs. He's not just here to sell. He actually tries to solve my problem or solve my need. And yes, it takes a little bit longer and it takes a little bit time. And that guy didn't come and just try to close the deal here and there and wasn't, motivated by. Is a slightly longer, softer, gentle approach, but it's a win-win because you feel your needs are met and he feels he closed the deal. You both feel good about it because both of you feel satisfied.
It's super, super interesting. I mean, I've heard of the concept before, selling without selling, right? I've heard of the theory behind it. I've heard of like the soft bake approach where you're like building that rapport. You're not really intending to sell a product, but really you are trying to sell a product. I've heard of that concept before. I just never knew it is financially feasible, like that it worked super well. I'm super interested that you're saying to me, hey, you know what, Hamad, this does work, and it does work very well for us. But I mean, I feel like it'll work better on a higher end level of client than rather like a B2B business. Yes. B2C, very hard to implement. You kind of see what I mean?
Well, yeah, we're not talking like as I mentioned. There are people who need those skills in client-facing roles in sales, and there are people who need those skills in senior leadership. We're not all for all, and I would be lying to you if I say, well, anyone it would be applicable to absolutely every business. So it's somewhere where I feel all organizations have to move to. So there won't be in the world 3 years from now, there won't be a company that doesn't think about how to genuinely impact people, how to genuinely treat people with the best possible solution for to meet their needs in mind, only thinking about the bottom line and the profits. I do not think that 3 years from now, I'm not even saying 30 years from now, I'm saying 3 years from now, I don't see a lot of organizations succeeding if that's their approach, because the world has changed massively, whether we feel it or not yet. It's already here.
I mean, I don't doubt what you're saying, but I remember reading an article by the Economist, and it said that businesses should not involve itself in policy. Businesses should focus on involving itself in the market, right? So you're having a byproduct, businesses like Nike coming out and supporting all kinds of movements, regardless, right or wrong, but it's not their core product.
It's not, but they can't. If they can't attract the talent, because the talent now looks for companies doing impactful things. So if you are wanting to attract the talent into your organization, that's what you have to offer. You have to offer impact, not just a job and not just a salary.
I found it's so interesting. It's so interesting. Okay.
So, and it's not just that, it's the same,
This is, by the way, X and Y theory when it comes to staff management. I remember this was like, I remember this now from university.
X and Y theory, remind me.
Yeah. Can you look it up, Dan? X and Y theory, business. It was basically that all staffs either want money and that it's an economic...
Not anymore.
Or, the theory, X and Y theory.
Oh, yeah.
And team management. Human work motivation and management created by Douglas McGregor.
Punishing people to keep their work going, yeah.
Yeah, well, under theory
gone.
Y promotes rewards and recognition play an important part. This keeps employees motivated for work towards achieving goals of the organization.
Yeah, that's old school. We are in a different dynamic. We also competing with AI massively as humans already. So it's not like it's coming, it's here. So education is more or less obsolete. Which skills we have to develop as humans right now?
I'm literally thinking. That's why I'm literally thinking.
Robots can do a lot of things these days.
But
what we have as humans still, which robots will probably never be able to compete, is the human potential to love, to connect, to build relationships, to use the intuition, to use the creative side. Even though AI now is very creative and they make art and all of that. But I mean, there is something that our program also creates. It's really boosting the human potential in terms of what can we in 5 years from now will still need that robots will not have.
But I wouldn't see that AI and humans necessarily compete. Like I wouldn't put
in skills directly.
I don't
how many people are now out of jobs because we have the direct competition in terms of skills?
Sure, but how many jobs have now existed that didn't exist in the past, right? PT, for example, personal trainer wasn't a thing, a job 10 years ago.
But it will be
Content
replaced.
writer wasn't really a skill.
Will be replaced. All of this. We thought even lawyers could not be replaced. Now it's all programmed.
Interesting.
That's all coming.
Interesting.
And it's not coming in the future. It's here. It arrived.
So do you then believe that humans would have to adapt necessarily in order to fit into that business
of course
world? Or do you believe in a post-capitalism economy where machines would take most of the jobs? And then I think, didn't Sweden, or was it Norway that experimented with the universal salary?
With universal salary for
this population. So where everyone would basically get an income. They removed all other social support, and the state said, "Hey, you know what? You're
gonna get the
there he goes. A high-profile basic income in Stockholm, which gave random selected residents 500 per month for 2 years with no strings attached."
Well, we have precedents. I mean, in communism, there were in socialist countries before the USSR collapsed. We have a precedent of salary being given to people and on equal basis and distributed. So there was a lot of experiments already, but I'm not someone who can see the future. I wish I had a crystal ball right now and
Soothsayer.
And this is where we head in, and this is where we're going to be, and this is how the world is going to run. We have, events like black swans and of this world and stuff like that. But what I know for sure is that we have shifted in terms of the social connectedness, in terms of how we relate to each other, in terms of how the business is run, in terms of what people expect from organization, from the job, from the lifestyle. And that is something that happening, and it's something that we don't have. It's irrevocable, so it's something is already taking place, something that we can't reverse. It's already in motion. It's happening, and we have to be prepared for what is coming. And if the organizations is not developing the new skills that they need, facing AI, facing people after pandemic, having completely different needs, completely different expectations from the jobs, from the salaries, from where they are in their life cycle, we're gonna have a big problem.
Okay. For the sake of the segment, so you can use it for marketing in your platforms, or how would you like? We'll do a thought experiment, right? Me and you have a car dealership. You have A and I have B. Traditionally, as a car dealer, right, you have your lot. Cars are outside, and then you have your sales guys who work generally on commission, and sometimes if they're very lucky, they get base salary and commission, right? I would, from my thinking and from my old world, I would be like closing, ABC, right? Always be closing. And if you're not, if you're the bottom performer, you're out, buddy. We've got no time to waste on you. And how would you manage then from that avenue?
Again, somebody who hasn't sold cars before.
Sure, neither have I.
I'm gonna make a guesstimate. Your guys in your car sales dealership are taught to go, not spending time to get to know the person, why they need the car, what is for, and so on, and try to close the deal. And they would focus on what the car has, features, equipment, all the things, the gadgets that it has inside. Look at the button, how it goes up and down. Look at this, all of this. And again, I'm not into cars, so you probably can guess. My salespeople learned how to focus on the person, their needs, and why they're looking for the car. So they will be able easily to establish if this guy is coming to have a car because he needs a statement. He's somewhere in at the stage of his life where he needs the car to boost, whether it's to boost his self-esteem or to boost a sense of purpose or to boost a sense of play in life or to boost. And so they're going to say, well, hey, I think this car is something that's going to make statement when you arrive at their organization. It's something that's going to create a different impression. It's something that's going to give you a sense of joy. Maybe it's something, if the person is looking for, I don't know, somewhere in the life where they're bored, they want to play, they say, well, this is the car perfect for having the sense of play. Or maybe it's the mother that has, I don't know, some kids and she needs the bigger. You can't know these things. You can't just make assumptions because somebody's just walking in and you just want to offer them whatever car you need to sell that day and whatever gadgets and features the car has. But when you know, okay, the mother needs the car that is functional, that practical, maybe stain-proof, maybe gonna have a lot of safety features. This car, the sales pitch is going to be completely different. This car, and you're going to tell to the mother, this car is super safe. This car is, we don't have any hardly ever crash. If there is a crash, your kids are going to be safe. Totally stain-proof, totally. So it's a different approach. She feels understood. She's more likely to buy car from my guys than from yours, because your guys is just going to be, shuffling the information in and without asking any questions, without hearing what the person is, why the person needs the car, without understanding what is the psychological maybe need.
What you're specifically talking about is the old pencil trick, that sell me the pencil. And then you would ask, why would you need a pencil? Have you seen a pencil like this? Well, where you're getting information on the mark and then building that bravura. It's like, oh, you're not into pencils? Well, I wouldn't be too sure about this. Why aren't you into pencils? And then
I don't know the trick, but I'm just saying.
Yeah, it's called can you look it up, Danny? It's called the pencil sales technique.
I'm just saying that.
Or pen sales technique.
What?
Sell me this pen.
Sell me this pen. 3 best answers.
Yeah. There was even part of a movie as well. Yeah.
Okay.
It's an old sales technique. They used to use it in car dealerships and stuff like that.
What I'm trying to say is that we teach how to form genuine connection. So it's not a technique to sell something. It's actually a technique to make any interaction a win-win. So by selling the car, you meet somebody's needs and exactly finding them exactly what they're looking for. And you make your sale easier, I'm not saying quicker, but maybe easier, because then you don't have to go through all the motions of, pushing someone to buy something that they don't necessarily need. Or
Interesting.
so the House of Human Connection and the School of Human Connection, which is the educational arm of the company, is about bringing the authenticity back to our lives on every level, professionally, relationship-wise, teaching self-awareness, connecting with self first, having that self-awareness leading to improved relationship with others, having improved relationship with others impacting all other areas of their life, that having that overall satisfaction. Because we really are social animals. We can't function without each other. We're so interdependent. So not knowing how to build the relationship with others, whether it's the immediate family, whether it's the workplace, whether it's friends and clients and so on, and wider community or global world, is detrimental to mental health, is detrimental to sense of well-being, detrimental to sense of joy, sense of satisfaction, sense of purpose in life. So that's exactly what my purpose is.
Okay, and this program, the
School of Human Connection.
School of Human Conditions. Sorry.
Connection.
I'm trying to remember the as an acronym.
It's a mouthful.
You're offering, you mentioned 10 programs in total?
No, we offer, it's 10 topics.
10 topics.
So we have our faculty.
Okay, so I was right with the 10. Okay.
Yes, we have 10 faculty members, and it's a retreat or a workshop within the organization.
And this is going to start, though, next year? Or it has
no, the retreat is planned for the next year, but the workshops we're offering right now.
Okay, so it's...
Yeah, so if somebody needs it tomorrow, obviously not tomorrow, but we need time to prepare to create it like a fully experiential event. But it's available right now.
And explain that a little bit more to me. So the workshop functions by call, as in by booking, or does it continuously happen and you can just attend?
No, it's not, because each if we're talking about the organization, it's not for general public, but for organizations, it's fully customized. Again, we come, we have a meeting with the organization and we listen. So what are current organizational needs? Where there are gaps? What is the organization trying to achieve, or where they are heading, or where they feel the disconnect within the team, disconnect with the clients, disconnect with the world. And we customize the program and create an event, which would, as I mentioned, it's multisensory, it's experiential, very hands-on.
This is though the event, the retreat. This is not the workshop.
No, the retreat. I'm talking the
this
workshop.
Is the workshop.
I'm not calling it workshop because I don't want people to associate it with traditional training. It is not.
Okay.
So we're talking about retreat is a separate event.
Okay.
And the smaller scale events which we create for different organizations, it's happening within that organization. So obviously we agree the time and place and where it's
micro events, let's call them that.
Yeah, micro events, yes.
And so with the micro events, you do them very customized based on the client as well.
Yeah.
And how long is like the traditional process between meeting to mini event, macro event?
It depends on the scale, depends on how big is the event, depends on, because obviously there is a preparation time. So if there's any faculty member that we need to fly in, for example, is
give me some examples. I mean, can you talk about past clients? Maybe not names, but maybe you can say what you did with them.
So
do you know what I mean? Yeah.
Yeah. So for example,
I'm trying to sell this to you, so you're gonna sell it.
So the process is, if you want me to break down the process, so we would go to a client, we would have a conversation with the senior management team, with the HR team, with the sales team, whoever is looking after a particular area that needs improvement with the skills development. And so after the conversation, we have this assessment of the organizational needs, and we send the proposal, and we create the best ski or the best event that would
Micro event would suit them.
Micro event that would suit them. And so once the proposal is accepted, so we then discuss the timeline. So it depends on the client, because some clients need it, let's say we have it next week, and so we see what can be done within a very short time frame. Some clients say we're flexible, so we normally take 6 to 8 weeks lead time to create something really special, because when I say multisensory, the event engages 5 senses. So we need to think about the sense of not just the visual, the audio, the sense of smell, the sense of taste, and it has to be, bringing the whole person into that event. And that obviously needs time. So we need to be very strategic about the location. We need to be very strategic about what exactly and how to engage them, the right formula to build those specific skills, and how do we mix the peer, because the peer learning is a huge part of every event. It's not just the learning from the faculty member, but it's also the peer learning. We get to know who the people, maybe do some personality testing and assessment in advance. Again, it depends on the budget of the organization. We have somebody in the team who does the personality assessments, and different, she's certified to do different assessments that we believe are quite accurate. So we might do the pairing based on different assessments, just to maximize the peer learning in.
Okay, can you give me an example of a client in previously that you worked on, and what kind of results did they find after the event? I mean, was it a bigger group? What's on average? We're talking about 5,
the group,
10?
Like the ideal group that we recommend to work with, it's 10 to 12 people. Because it's we find it's the just the perfect balance between having that intimate feel to the event, and having enough people to bounce ideas, and having that sense.
You don't have to worry about the camera. I'm right here.
No, I'm talking
because I keep seeing you looking at the camera.
No, I'm talking to you.
Okay.
So the 10 to 12 people is the peer learning that is maximized in that number. So I feel that whenever there is, if the group is larger, I prefer to break them down maybe into smaller teams to create that sense of
touch,
openness and touch and intimacy, because the event is something that increases the trust between the members. So the smaller the group,
the more one-on-one work you can do.
Exactly. So what we also offer, when you say what the clients get, we also offer the post-program sustainability. So what I found a lot in my previous roles when we were, looking after and offering different trainings and so on, what I found a lot is that somebody comes brilliant, delivers whatever workshop or training or skills development program, and they go, and people say, okay, it was great, but then what's next? So we always offer the post-program sustainability process. So it's either after the event, we have one-on-one transformational leadership coaching for senior management team, or we have small mini videos or mini connection, mini Zoom sessions with people who attended the event, let's say once a month, 5-minute video that we send them as a reminder, or something that would ensure that within 6 months to 9 months, depending on the event and what we delivered, from 6 to 9 months after the program, we have touch points where people can have further insights, reflections, and they say, okay, so this is another one. Now I have another insight. So it continues, and it's something that I found is lacking from a lot of people who offer the training. It's having that prolonged period of continuous learning and continuous development. So this is.
I understand that, but I mean, we're still in answer to the question of what would past clients have like gained after the event? Did Do they have better communications? Is their relationships better? What kind of usual results are we seeing?
Well, the feedback that we're getting is the relationships, obviously the skills. I mean, because it's a skills. I mean,
sorry, I'm grilling you so hard, but
yes,
I mean,
you do. But the skills, it's something that, I mean, no training provider is going to, when we're talking about the soft skills, nobody's going to have a hard statistics that as a result of this specific training, our sales have been, boosted by such and such percentage, because there's a lot of
other limiting factors.
Yeah, and,
sure.
and so you have different variabilities that could impact particular, where the organization is in this particular stage, how the skills were implemented, and something that we have no control over. So if you are grilling me for particular statistics and say, as a result,
at all.
as a result of our intervention, the sales boosted by 85%, I'm not going to offer that. I'm going to be lying if I'm going to be saying you this. But the feedback is always I now know what triggers me in certain situations. I now have better control of what makes me do things in a certain way. I now have better idea how to understand someone in my team or as my clients, or I can express myself without needing to, or I can express myself authentically without needing to wear a mask. Because what creates the distance between the people is when people trying to wear a mask. I'm wearing a mask of a CEO right now. I'm wearing a mask of a salesperson. I'm wearing a mask of a charming, cars dealership salesman, and I'm gonna sell, the car to someone right now. That mask is something that we take off during the event. Because if you are wearing a mask, there's no way you can build a connection. If you are wearing a mask of, I'm going to be a mask of a good manager right now, so I'm going to call this employee of mine and I'm going to offer them a really good feedback and critique or something. This is what we ensure that goes, I'm on stage right now, I'm going to wear a mask of a speaker. Okay, so what speaker is like, what I'm supposed to be like a speaker. Okay, I have to move like that. Okay, posture. Okay, this is how I stand. This is how, okay, voice modulation and all of that. That is something
separate. Okay.
So this is something that we make sure that people take off. It's like peeling a layer of the onion. You just say, okay, there are so many layers, but let's just peel off the layers and see what is not yours. And when we peel the layer in a very safe environment in the event, and people discover, okay, this is not mine, this is mine, and I'm comfortable with what is mine. Then the other soft skills come in, like, communication and listening and all of that. But it always starts with connecting with self first. You can't connect with others if you disconnected from yourself. So a lot of our trainings, or not trainings, but a lot of the learning that we offer is around
trauma work, I guess.
It's not the trauma work. We don't have. I wish in the future we will. Where we can have psychologists and psychoanalytics and people who can work with people at much deeper level. At this stage, we're not qualified to do that work, but what we offer different tools which help people to discover who they are authentically and connect to themselves first. And that self-awareness leads to better connection with others, even without acquiring any further skills. Just when you are connected to yourself better is already having a lot of
that confidence that gets to you. You can then be a more genuine.
It's all about self-awareness, because it comes, the confidence, and people talk a lot about self-love these days. Self-love is, to me, equals self-awareness. If you know yourself really, really, really well, if you take time to spend time with yourself, if you take time to learn a lot about yourself, and during the event we put people in situations which creates that self-discovery or expedites the self-discovery. that self-awareness leads to self-love, to confidence, to authenticity, to taking that mask of someone they want to be, or someone they ought to be, or someone they told they have to be, or I have to be a man, or I have to be a woman, or I have to be, or I don't know, a podcaster, or I have to be influencer, I have to be whoever. When they really discover,
I'm neither of those things.
true, but when they,
I know.
I'm not talking about.
Sure,
I'm
but you
giving
chose those words for a reason, though. I worked in sales too.
That automatically leads to.
I got you off your chain of thought.
It automatically leads to improved connection with others. It starts with self. We start in every event, we start with self. We don't start, okay, we don't care who you are, let's teach you communication skills, or let's teach you presenting skills. It all starts, let's discover who you are.
Okay.
Do you know who you are? If you do not know who you are, let us help you. Let's have different things that we can get you involved in to discover. And then everything else that follows is just a beautiful process of adding the small cherries on the top of a beautiful cake once we discover the person's real
nature,
safe and nature.
I'm still trying to understand how that helps business, though. But
people buy from.
First of all, do you want anything to drink? Because
Yes.
I want to have a break as well.
Yes.
And where's the retreat then based at?
We have two locations. The one is in Italy,
Okay.
and one is in Madeira, which is a beautiful island, like paradise-like island in the middle of Atlantic Ocean.
And how did you choose those two locations?
Again, I was looking for a very exclusive venues.
Sure.
I was looking for a good climate. I was
Sure.
looking for a good food because, as I said, it's a multi-sensory event
Okay.
where we want to engage a good food, good weather, good everything, environment, a combination of really good accommodation as well. Because if people are flying for 10-topic program, we're talking about minimum 12 to 14 days if we want to also build different activities in between. So if people are flying for 2 weeks somewhere, it has to be phenomenal.
Okay.
And
I'm sure it is.
Yeah, I've looked at different venues and different events, and I've identified those two locations.
Okay.
And it would, of course, expand. So for example, if I have a client in Australia, I don't have any clients in Australia right now, but if I have a client in Australia and they don't want to fly a team of senior leadership all the way to Italy, we can find something closer. We can find something. We have a really good venue in Bali that we can use, or somewhere close to that area. And the same, in the US, it could be a venue in Costa Rica or somewhere that offer potentially that good climate and multisensory experience and good accommodation and somewhere. But right now, those two, we find that we can get people from both the US and Australasia that would come to Europe. It's Europe-based right now.
And which one is from your end personally more difficult to manage? The retreats or the micro events?
Retreats, of course.
Really?
Yes.
Do you also then do the flight tickets, booking, the hotels?
Not for the clients.
Of course, for the staff.
To fly 10 members of the faculty to coordinate to one location, to prepare the venue, to prepare the flow, to organize activities around it. It's a lot of work. So that's why we only do it once a year, because it doesn't. It takes 1 year of preparation.
Wow. And how do you reach prospective businesses? Do you have a sales team that identifies potential businesses that you believe, hey, you know what, this could be a good client to work with? And then you reach out to them and say, hey, you know what, we offer these services. We've worked with X, Y, and Z.
Yeah.
Yeah? So very traditional. Okay.
Yeah.
Word of mouth or not so much word of mouth?
Word of mouth, connections. There's no social media.
Sure.
It's all because it's a different approach to marketing even.
Very exclusive.
Yes, it's all through the word of mouth. It's through the personal connections. It's very personal. It's very personalized. So if there is a retreat in a few months' time, I would approach people directly that I know would be beneficial for others within the group. So if when you have a product like this, a service like this, you know the type of client you want to attract as well. And this is not only based on somebody who wants to develop a particular skill set or to learn and grow or just want to retreat and mingle with like-minded people, build those connections. But also part of the assessment is how much others will learn from this individual. No group program is powerful and impactful without people contributing to each other's learning. So it's always a part of the process when you go on a program like that. We always have that assessment in mind, like what would people learn from each other? How can we maximize that learning? Because group learning is much more powerful than individual learning. There is a magic that happens in a group. When people get together, they really... There's a group dynamic that on one hand is very predictable. On the other hand, we always are surprised how much it unlocks in people's mind, because there's always, when different characters and different experience and different people with their life stories, they meet in one place and they start to interact at a very, at the depth of the core. There's so many beautiful surprises that sometimes unexpectedly you just think, wow, the shifts that takes place because of the group, not because of even what we created as a organization or as an experience. That shift that happens can only happen within the group. That's why the selection is again also in the same way how the faculty members were selected, cherry picked, in the same way we're trying to select the clients as well, because it's about, I may be different from you in that respect. I do things because I love doing them. If there is someone, a potential client who I know I'm not going to enjoy interacting with, I'm not going to go there just because of the profit. I have to have fun in the process. So if I'm not having fun because of, I know there will be, a clash, or there will be something that maybe we have, I don't know, not a fit is not there. It's not going to work. So if that's why it's not just, we put like posts on social media, the marketing, it's as I said, it's all human experience and human marketing and personalized, customized, and it's a new way of doing business. It's about having joy when you're doing it.
That sounds beautiful. I like that. I do agree. We are very different animals, though. For my dad used to always say, my favorite activity is seeing the numbers of my bank account increasing. So,
it's not mutually exclusive.
No, I agree. It's not mutually exclusive.
It's not just because you don't have a hardcore approach to profit and bottom line doesn't mean that you're not getting richer.
Sure, but like I mentioned also...
In fact, it's the opposite.
I agree with that statement. There's that quote. How does it go? If you keep your friends rich and keep your enemies rich, try to see which is which. So I think there's truth to that. I always think that we limit our thinking or traditional way of thinking that if we don't focus on bottom line, we're not going to achieve it. We can achieve it as a byproduct of a different focus. But to the client base now, again, I just wanted to ask you, do you build the program because first I never asked you why you even started the program, but do you build the program in the pursuit of repeat business, or do you work with one client and you achieve what you wanted to achieve and then move on to the next? You know what I'm saying? It's a very different approach to both of them.
I always see that there's no end to learning.
Sure.
So once you open a door and you create an interest and curiosity, and maybe even it starts maybe with just an interest and curiosity, and then you create a hunger for more. I don't see why this business could not be based on repeated clients, but as my personal objective is to touch as many organizations or as many businesses as possible, and therefore, yes, maybe it would be easier to find few clients and have a longer programs with them and have the repeat business with the same organization over and over again. But my objective is beyond just to have this as a business, because when part of the retreats that we create, we want to also create the community leaders. So we're not just creating the future leaders of the future organizations that have a different approach to do business. My objective is also create community leaders who are gonna go back to their communities, whatever country they coming from, and actually start building the more connected places. Because I told you how this project started. It was started from my own personal pain point, where I felt already very socially disconnected from the rest of the world, from the community, with the impact, as much as we love social media and what it does for us, the impact it makes on the way we connect with each other and the skills that we're losing in the process. So I was already feeling the negative impact of increasingly disconnected world before the pandemic, and pandemic just opened that wound and expanded it even more. And when we were socially isolated, that was a major pain for me, and I see a lot of people suffering as a result of it too. So I made it my goal, as we exit obviously the pandemic and it's safe to start connecting again, I want to go beyond that. I want to not just having different way we do business and different way we have our personal relationships and different way we build our families, but also how we can have better connected communities. How can we create better connected cities? How can we create better connected countries? And I know it's maybe a utopia, or maybe it's a mission too big for one person, but if we can build in our program that all the people that we develop the skills for, and when we create the leaders, or when we take the leaders and make them skilled for what the future is having in front of us, is to instill that urge to go back to their communities and make the world more connected.
Okay. So
and that is my mission. And by the way, talking about the traditional leaders and it's not Mark, for example, Mark Zuckerberg, he had an interview on one of the podcasts with Lex Friedman. I don't know whether you've seen that podcast. I mean, I love that podcast. But he had an interview with Lex, and Lex was asking him a lot of questions about how the Facebook started and what his goals and roles and what is his vision. And at the end of the interview, after they were talking about different business side of things and all of that, and the end of the interview, he said that I started this because of human connection. And this is, one of the richest people in the world, and one of the, not a lot of people have, I mean, he's controversial figure to quote, but his goal to start the Facebook was not to make money. His goal to increase the human connection. Whether he did it or not is questionable, but what he reached in terms of the profit was just a byproduct.
Okay.
So the point I'm making is that it's not mutually exclusive. You can have a goal, and it's based on other values than the profit line.
Maximization, yeah.
And it leads to profit maximization, but not just the normal, like it leads to
a larger scope.
A completely different scope and completely different level. I mean, look how we're Facebook today.
Let's pause this for 1 second. First, Facebook started as a website that was about reviewing women on high school. Second, he had a PR team who mentioned that. And this is why I let you have...
No, he said it.
Yeah, but he also has a PR team that whispers in his ear what to say and what to not.
No, but listen to his interview. Like, this is...
I listened to it on Joe Rogan's, for example. I mean, I know...
No, I know what he has to say, but I mean, I felt at that particular moment he was genuine. And he wasn't whispering, like you looked at what he said. Looking
genuine? Have you seen him when he had not interview? Have you forget just the interview when he was like in front of Congress? He looked like a lizard. Did you see how he drank water? He was. He's so far removed from human.
It's irrelevant. I think I'm giving him as an example. I felt at the time he was genuine. I felt that here we have a successful, from the profit and bottom line point of view, successful businessman who does say that human connection is the most important thing for
But do you not think that's
And he expanded
biased?
on that. I don't think it's biased. He expanded on that. He did say that the most important, and Lex asked him, what is human connection for you? And how do you personally, what it means? What is he later asked him, what is your purpose in life? What is your life purpose? And he did say, I don't have an exact sentence, but he say, my purpose in life is my most closest humans in my life, is my family, is my the connection that I have with people. This is my life purpose.
And I can give you an example in another interview when he asked, don't you feel that you introduced social media and people are now stuck in their phones looking at their screens and not interacting with human beings? He said, well, think of the activity. They would have just been sitting in front of the TV. Instead, now they're messaging their friends. That's a step up. So, you get what I mean? It's like...
He did.
This was the one with Joe Rogan that he talks about.
Yeah, well, potentially. Lex, what I like, the interviews that... Lex does tend to get the core of the people out. He goes deep. He doesn't, Joe Rogan's and him are good friends, I believe, and they have a completely different style.
No, I love how we're talking about people we've never met.
We do. And that's as I said, that's gossiping. But no, they do, they do spend time together and they do quote each other as he's one of my best friends, and so I'm just repeating what they said. He has, which is what I love about his podcast, is he's got that ability to get out of people what you would not normally get. And with Mark, for example, the interview, he was asking him questions about life, death, purpose, and I believe he caught him on guard when he asked this question. And I do believe that what he said about the human connection, what he said about life, death, purpose, was genuine, because it was just, these were not the questions that he was prepared. You can tell that he was completely off guard, and you can tell that he was searching.
I'll have to watch it as soon as I get home, I promise you.
Yeah.
Because my gut, coming from the media world, working in media most of my life, I know that 95% of stuff is either pre-talked or scripted. Like I just offered to you. I said, hey, is there any specific questions you would like me to ask? Is there anything you would want to get into? Right? And then I would throw you like a curveball, or I would make a little bit more grilling on certain issues. I know that's like...
Yeah, but you have not given me any questions that you're going to be asking. So in fact, you kept it pretty
Secretly? I don't think it was secret. I didn't have any pre-Christians when he walked in.
So it's not... And I believe that Lex probably didn't share the questions that he had for him either. And we don't know.
I don't know.
And we
have to check it out.
We could be cynical about it, but I tend to read people well, and I
Sure.
believe in that particular interview he wasn't reading a PR script that was written for him in advance. He wasn't.
I mean,
Completely, the mask slipped off, in my opinion, in that particular moment, and I don't want to spend too much time talking about him. I don't think it's worth it. But I just think that was an example given to illustrate that there is no mutual exclusivity between the bottom line, the profit, and what motivates you.
Listen, I'm not going to counter you because it's your business structure, and I don't want to counter your own business. I just find it like, I just don't understand. This is not going to be used in the edit or whatever. I just don't understand from a prospect of being a business owner, of being a consultant, of working. It's always been either bottom line, and it's been like, fuck your friends. You know what I'm saying? It's like, hey, there's a job to be done. You know what I mean?
It has changed, and if you haven't noticed it,
I
have good news for you.
Maybe maybe I'm an old I'm an old dinosaur.
Maybe you are, but if you haven't noticed that if you haven't noticed the shift.
I honestly, I feel like things have become more fake than ever before.
They can't be.
Absolutely. It's been so much more worse than in the 90s.
It will be either or. You either go genuine, authentic, or...
There's no middle. I agree with that.
There will it's either or. And people who are still doing the business traditional way, good luck to them.
Yeah,
we won't see them in 3 years' time.
I find that interesting because, as there's an old saying, right? It takes a very long time for a bad business to die.
I'm not wishing anybody to die.
No,
I'm not wishing
for the business to go bankrupt.
I'm not wishing. I hope this is a wake up call.
Sure.
I don't want anyone. This is not the ethics of what we offer to the world. We want everyone to succeed, but we want everyone to recognize the shift and to get the skills and upskill the teams, the organizations, look at the values, look at what drives the organization, where you can make impact, and take it from there. Because if there is an organization that hasn't recognized that shift took place, they have a rude awakening ahead of them. And I feel that we are at the right time, at the right place, and maybe a little bit forward thinking and maybe a little bit ahead of time. But there's always innovators, and there's always disruptors. And I do come from a traditional academic background. I just completed my 5th degree, so I don't negate that. But I do think that the education will be obsolete. I do think that the traditional training and skill acquiring, the way we do it, is also changing.
I agree with that.
So we do need to innovate, and we do need to look forward. What is the future? I was never interested in something what we had in the past. I mean, I do like the history and the past, and I recognize, because it gives you a lot of insights in where, how the human development was taking place.
There's also structure.
It gives you structure, it gives you certain patterns, and they are really important. But on the other hand, there is an innovation in the way we learn. There is an innovation in the skills we need for the future, given the current trends and environment. And this is what...
But don't you feel that there is such a large... Because right now you're using a sweeping generalization, because in each culture is inherently different of an organizational structure. For example, in Japan, if you were sitting in a board meeting and the chairman hasn't taken a sip of his tea and you took a sip of your tea, that's a big taboo. And it actually goes by ranking of how important by the org chart. that's when he can have the sip.
There is a cultural, of course, there are cultural differences. And
absolutely.
And each culture has, they could potentially, we have obviously the more individualistic culture, we have more community oriented or collective cultures. I think we go deeper than that, because when it comes to human connection and the way we are as humans, if you remove the culture, again, culture is one of the layers. Remember the onion metaphor that I was using, and I say we peel the layers, and culture is one of them, because we are influenced by culture, and we are influenced by the family, the way we grow up, how we grow up, who brought us up, how it has been done, how much love we received as humans, how much respect we got, and all of this obviously influences us. So these are the layers. Expectations by cultures, by society, by where we work and what we do, how we dress, and all of this. These are the layers that we help peel in, because when it comes to human connection, we are beyond culture. It's not really something that, when you authentically connect with another human, culture becomes less important. I'm not saying that it's not important. Of course, you need to know the protocols or the different cultural differences, but the human connection goes beyond that.
Okay.
So and there are so many studies that has been done when we look at the different humans and how, let's say, how we love. Whether it's Saudi Arabia, whether it's Japan, whether it's the emotion is exactly the same, whether it's somebody who maybe never seen humans and they live somewhere in the jungle. The emotion is the same, because when you look at the human emotions and you look at different, how we as humans express emotions, they're not culturally driven.
I would argue they're massively culturally driven.
Not on emotional level, not on the level of feeling.
Of course.
Would you think Japanese people feel love differently than people in Saudi Arabia?
No, but they express love differently.
That is not feeling. That is cultural.
How do you infer love? By expression, no? Like if your wife can love you as much as she loves you, but if she doesn't express that she loves you, you will never know.
But that's on the human level. That's not on the cultural level. She's not going to express her love culturally to you.
Sure.
She's going to express to you as human to human.
Sure.
So you're going to have differences on a human level, but not on the cultural level necessarily, because you see a lot of people who have, let's say, marriages from different cultural backgrounds, and it works because they are able to express love to each other regardless of whether in that particular culture this is how people express it, or in this particular culture
but it requires a lot of communication, though.
People don't express any emotions, and this is another skill.
No, because I mean I coming from a what is it, like a biodiverse family, whatever the title is, from two different cultures, I can tell you it takes a lot of communication for that to work, because of how different their standards and norms and their cultures are.
Of course, standards and norms, but not the human emotion.
Okay.
We're talking about standard, like exactly, that's exactly the word that you use, the standards and norms, and they are not human emotion that I'm talking about.
Okay.
So when you learn how to listen to someone and you learn how to understand someone, it's irrelevant whether this person is from Germany or from Saudi or from Japan or from Canada or it's the same listening skill. Or if you learn how to communicate what you have to say, regardless of what setting you're in, authentically, it's nothing to do with the culture, because it's going to be understood or taken from the right angle if this is your authentic way of expressing yourself. People do recognize when it comes from your...
Do you think people are like that emotionally, like...
When you are on stage and you fit... When you try to fit a particular setting, okay, so you come on stage and you say, okay, I don't know, we are at the well-being conference and we're going to be talking about the well-being, so I'm going to be a well-being expert. And you come on stage and you have the audience in mind, and I'm a well-being speaker, and you have presentation that is aligned with it. is one approach, and that's where you take to consideration, okay, what is the culture of these people and what is their, I don't know, the standards, the norms, what are the industry acceptable way of, I don't know, presenting, hearing information, receiving it, and so on. And when you create an experience on stage where it comes from who you are at the particular moment, it comes from where you are, it's like, you know, a snapshot of who you are, where you are in that particular moment, and you share that with people. And I'm not talking about oversharing what you have inside you, but if you authentically create an experience on stage where you share a part of your human soul, it will be felt by all people in the audience, regardless of the culture.
Okay.
And it's not something that I can tangibly present, but there is a set of tools that you can use to get yourself to that stage. So when you walk on the stage, and yes, you have a preparation, you have your, maybe points, what you want to say, but you create an experience on stage where you share a part of you with the audience and create that connection. And that is bypassing the culture, the standards, the norms of that particular industry and so on, even though you do talk about something which is related to that particular topic.
So you're talking about that wow factor when somebody comes in through the door. There's that, how does it go? If you can hear me coming down the hall, you can hear a piano fall, right? They're not really getting what I'm saying. It's like that incredible charismatic thing where somebody just walks in the door, the room like stops.
Yes, there's a tool, how to make it happen. And also it's about, before you go on the stage, connecting with where you are at this particular moment, because we have different moments. So this morning you could be, I don't know, serious. In the afternoon you could be playful. Something affected you the night before. You could be, I don't know, moody, or you could be in a different. So it's like a snapshot. People are not constant. So we are humans and we're affected by a lot of external and internal factors. So when you authentically assess where you are at this particular moment, when you're just about to come on stage, and you present the people that version of yourself, of the snapshot that you are at that particular moment, without trying to, okay, something just happened to me, I'm affected by a lot of things, but I'm going to wear a mask of a presenter. I'm going to be, I'm going to be very energetic, and I'm going to be motivating, I'm going to be inspiring, and all of that, where you don't feel like it. That's going to create a disconnect. But when you authentically connect with where you are in a particular time and space, with what just happened in your life, and then you go on stage and you do present that version of yourself at that particular moment, and you do take time to consider the time and space and you as a human in that snapshot, that creates that authentic experience which people recognize, regardless of the industry norms, regardless of the culture standards, regulations, expectations. You create a different experience. And I'm just giving you one of the examples because this is one of the topic that we teach, but it goes across the board with other topics. Authenticity is recognizable across all cultures. When somebody is authentic, when emotions, people read emotions regardless whether you're in Japan or whether you are, maybe culturally you're not expressing them as naturally and as freely as some other cultures. If you're in Latin America, it's a completely different approach to expressing your emotions. But when people see the emotions, they recognize it in others.
Again, we are on two sides of a river. I find it amazing. Maybe I'm a robot inside, because to me, the moment it's like do or die. The moment I sit in this chair, I take whoever I am and I turn it up to 11, and it's just that. There is anything that happened that prior to the moment I sit in here doesn't matter. Anything that will happen after doesn't matter. It is.
No, you are in that moment, and that creates authenticity. I'm not saying.
Okay, I get what you're saying now. Okay.
But you're not okay. So you mentioned earlier that
sure,
what you are off stage is
On
what you
stage,
are on stage.
absolutely.
So there's one
Because the mask thing is not
Yeah,
with me.
yeah.
But I do turn up who I am personality-wise. I turn it up. I bring more energy than I would normally bring into a discussion. If that makes sense. No, yeah.
I'm not saying that it's bad or wrong, but it's not necessary because
I'm not justifying it either.
if you are coming to an interview and maybe your energy is low at a particular time, and you connect to me with
A low energy.
from the point of the low energy, but authentically, it's going to create a different dynamic. Maybe it's going to bring a different dynamic to a conversation. Let's say you have a low...
Oh, I agree with that statement.
So you have a low energy, you come to the interview, and this is the way you're going to start the interview. And it will also create a mirroring effect, and maybe I will go into the low energy, and maybe you're going to... And maybe, not maybe, but definitely our interview is going to go in a different direction because your energy I'm going to mirror your energy, and what we're going to talk about is going to be different. Your particular energy, maybe we're going to go deeper, maybe we're going to go more emotional, maybe we're going to go more, okay, let's explore the angles of each other that we would not explore if we were all like hype up and upbeat and so on.
That's really interesting. Okay, yeah.
So that creates a different type of connection, but that connection is more authentic when you are...
I've never looked at it from top-down approach, by the way.
When you are in way at that particular state of that particular moment.
I do agree with you in the sense as well that when somebody is very fake, it's like that America thing with that fake smile.
You know it, and it's irritating, and you can't connect.
Exactly. I agree with that totally. I'm with you 100% on that.
And you see a lot of people put that mask on. I have to be upbeat. I have to be energetic. I have to be optimistic. I have to be positive. What if you're not positive? You can
get that. I get that.
You get it. Like, let's say before our interview, my cat, like who's the one of the creatures that I love the most. I mean, not the most, but one of the most beloved creatures in my life. It has been really, really sick. It affects me. No, I mean, I'm not saying it's true, but I'm saying just an example. So it does affect the way I'm talking to you today, for sure. And I do not want to come to a conversation with anyone, whether it's recorded or not. I don't want to come with a conversation with a fake smile and saying I'm the most positive person in the world, most optimistic, because
we've had that as well, yeah.
Because we will connect differently if I bring the whole of myself.
Sure.
And the whole of myself is dealing, let's say, with the cat problem. So I do not want to come to any conversation or any connection with a hat or a mask or something that would make me connect to the person differently. And it would.
Before we wrap it up, because it's 8:00, is there anything you would like to add? How would people find you? How would people maybe contact you from a business perspective?
Yeah, they could contact us via our website on the schoolofhumanconnection.com.
But if you're down for it, come back in October and we can go more into the Human School of Connection and the events and the facilities and the programs.
Yes, inshallah.
Absolutely. I hope it wasn't too painful.
It wasn't painful, but you didn't tell me you're going to be grilling me.
I mean, come on. It's part of the nature, no? It has to be good content.